Hello everyone, artist Charles Wolf here. I hope you're having a great day today. This past week I was able to purchase some professional grade watercolor paints. And here's my palette right here: Alizarin Crimson, Bright Red, Lemon Yellow, Yellow Ochre, Burnt Sienna, Burnt Umber, Ultramarine Blue, and Payne's Gray. I'm very excited because I was able to get not only the paints but also a Stay Wet palette, which you'll see in future videos. Today I will be using a 3/4 of an inch bright brush as well as a rigger for this painting. I was also able to get some 140-pound artist quality watercolor paper. These are 10 by 15 inch sheets that I've cut in half to make 7.5 by 10 inch papers to paint on. I want to give a quick shout out to my friend Dave Usher, who inspired me to try watercolor painting. If you're not familiar with his work, then head over to his YouTube channel. I will put a link in the description below for that. He is a British artist and does some amazing work in watercolors and in acrylics. So without further ado, I'm very excited to get started on this painting and give watercolors a try. Let's get to it. Because I am relatively new to this medium, I'm going to start out today with a simple sunset painting that I'm confident that I can pull off and have some fun while I'm doing so. The important part for me whenever I'm creating art is to have a good time, to enjoy just the process of creating a new picture. I started today with some yellow ochre. That's pure yellow ochre. I've added quite a bit of water to it to really water it down so that it comes really easily off the brush. I first started with some wide brush strokes, like so, and then I've switched here to some thinner strokes by turning it more perpendicular to the sheet of paper so that the sharper edge of that bright brush that I'm using comes into contact directly with the paper. I've added a bit of water to this to kind of get this prepared for the next layer that I'm going to be adding. You can wet your paper down ahead of time before you start your very first layer. Some do that, sort of a wet and wet technique. Today I added just quite a bit of water to my actual paint, so I didn't bother with adding too much water to the actual paper ahead of time. Other paintings I may try it and use more of a wet and wet technique, but today I just started out with just enough water to get the paint to come off the brush smoothly. If you don't add enough, it won't run nicely, so trial and error. Figure out the right amount of water to add. I'm going to grab some ultramarine blue, a little bit of yellow ochre, and some Payne's gray to make kind of a grayish blue mix. Touch of yellow in there to make it a little bit into green family, but there's less yellow than there is gray and blue, just so you know. Taking the corner of the brush, I'm just going to dab here and create some distant trees. Make a nice little tree line here, very distant, very faint little strokes, just suggesting them, not trying to paint every little one, but quickly put them down and get on to the next step. Adding a little bit more blue to the mixture. You can see it's darkening it up a little bit. And in this light, it's coming off a little bit more green than it looks in person. So I will make sure I include a picture of the final painting when it's all dry. And you can see that this blue I'm putting on now is a touch too green in the camera. And it actually is a little bit more in the gray family. So if you're painting along, just make sure that you don't make it too green. It should be more gray. Okay, continuing forward, changing my brush strokes, still using the side of my brush. I'm going to switch in just a moment to a different color, but putting down a darker layer first, very lightly, of course. Just adding in a few more touches here and there. Okay, back to my gray mix. Here, I'm using some horizontal brush strokes to suggest the bank of this lake scene that I'm painting. Keeping my wrist relaxed, quickly moving along, quick motions. You notice that I'm keeping it very free and loose, not worrying about making it perfect, just trying to get the overall suggestion in place. A few more very faint trees back there. Grabbing some more yellow ochre, lemon yellow, and ultramarine blue, going much more into the yellow family. I'm going to start bringing in layers of this very light green, sort of suggesting fall trees. Pretty faint, and it will take shape as I layer it. The trees on the left-hand side are going to be larger because they are nearer to you, and we want the trees to look like they're getting farther and farther away to the right. In addition, I want the trees to the right to have a bluish cast to them, hence the use of the gray-blue mixture, because as the atmosphere becomes between me and those distant trees, you will notice that they look more blue, more of a bluish hue in photographs and in real life. Coming back here with some yellow ochre with a touch of the burnt umber. This is a very warm, rich color. And I'm just layering it here on top of the gray-blue spots that I already have, which will be my shadows. I'm going to grab some lemon yellow and a bit of the yellow ochre added to it, again warming it up, making it very fall and festive. I'm really thinking this is a fall scene. Really enjoying the colors and the beauty that I'm seeing here in gorgeous North Carolina. All the trees near my house have turned to golden hues, and it's just lovely. My favorite time of the year, very excited for Thanksgiving, and then of course, my absolute favorite holiday, Christmas. Add some bright red. You always have to have a nice sparkling red gem among the yellow, I think. And it's always very fun to add that in. So I'm going to take some of the bright red, add a little bit of the yellow ochre to it, and I'm just using the corner of that bright brush to put a few indications of a red tree, maybe a maple. Grabbing some more of that gray mix. Again, it looks a little bit too green on the camera here, really more of a gray. And I'm going to put a few broad strokes of the yellow ochre, kind of mirroring the sky above. I'm actually thinking I want to put a few more clouds in that sky, so I will go back and make sure that I do that before I end this painting. Taking a little bit more of the water. It was a little bit too thick, and I'm trying to create just a suggestion of the yellow. Don't want it to be too vibrant. I want the focus to be on the upper half of the picture and of this, I keep wanting to call it a canvas, but really of this sheet. I have to get used to that. Before this, I've only painted on canvases, so new things. Very exciting, very exciting. Filling in a few spots here. Okay, back to that bright red, touch of the yellow ochre. I'm going to increase the intensity here. Ooh, look at that shine. Nice bright red there. More red that time than yellow ochre. It really pops. Nice bit of color there. Looking good, looking good. A few more things to really pull this together, but I'm keeping it very simple. Again, this is one of the first that I have done in this medium, so I'm trying not to make it too complicated. Okay, grabbing more of that gray mix, I added a bit more blue this time. Felt like it was a little bit too neutral, wanted to bring in some more color. So I'm going to grab some more of that blue. And I've realized that this bank needs to come forward more, so I'm going to increase it a bit. And I'm going to fix some of the lines back here in the distance. They were not quite straight, didn't look quite right, so I'm going to fix that. Adding a bit of water to it so it runs a bit better. It was a little bit too dry. Didn't run like watercolor should, so I wanted to make a few adjustments to it. One of the nice things is that you can add a bit of water and spread it around, and you can kind of obfuscate some of your lines with this paint. And it's very different than acrylic, which usually you're covering up. This is sort of moving it around, so very, very interesting. Something I'll have to get used to as I move forward. Alright, a few more brush strokes. Again, up to this point, I've only been using that bright brush. I do have a rigger next to me, which I'll be using in just a moment. Very thin sort of liner brush. Gonna add some Alizarin crimson and ultramarine blue, kind of make a purple kind of cast, and add in just a few quick strokes, horizontal strokes, of some distant clouds up in the sky there. Some nice contrast to that yellow ochre haze I have going on. One of the things that really attracted me to watercolor is that I already like to abstract my landscapes. I don't like spending hours and putting in all the details personally. I love the way it looks when other artists do it and take the time to add in all the gorgeous little details in every blade of grass and so forth. But for me, I just don't have the patience for that. I like to quickly, very loosely capture the essence of what I'm looking at more than trying to get every little detail perfect. So for me, watercolor is a great medium because it really allows you to abstract quickly a scene. And you can, with just a few strokes, put in a nice looking bit of trees, some water. You can leave a lot of the paper showing and it'll work just fine. And it looks great, and I really am enjoying the process of getting used to using this medium. Alright, continuing to use my brush, taking some water and moving things around a little bit. Wasn't quite happy with how the lines look, so I'm just making a few adjustments. Just trying to capture a little bit of that purple light that will be reflected down. I am going to dab off the excess here because I got too much water on my paper. Taking my rigger brush, I'm going to grab some burnt umber and a bit of the Payne's gray. Add a few little indications, very faintly, of some branches sticking out of this tree line. At this distance, you would be able to see a few of the trunks peeking out here and there. So I really want to add in some of those little details with this brush. Kind of pulls the whole painting together, and it looks just really beautiful, and just a little bit of detail can really make the whole thing sort of pop. I'm going to leave the further distant trees without these trunks added in. They've become sort of obfuscated by the distance, but these nearer trees will have a few more, which will really draw the eye to the left-hand side. And that's basically it for my first watercolor painting that I've put up on this channel. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Would you like to see more of these? Of course, the ones coming up will be a bit more complicated. I'll put a few more up in the next few weeks. So let me know. Thanks!